G'day guys, Justin here, and I'm finally up to date with my NBA analysis. Just quickly, I apologise for being behind in what I was doing. Had a fair bit come up the last couple of months, particularly with university finishing and holidays, and cricket season over here is pretty busy. I'm a very keen cricket follower, so watching a lot of that, hanging out with girlfriend before she moves, and all that sort of stuff. So. Holiday period's been pretty busy, it's particularly over here in Australia, different over there in the States for those of you that watch me over there. But yeah, no, it's been a pretty busy time. So I've just been trying to catch up in the last couple of days. And I've decided what I'll do from here on in is nothing but weekly updates and maybe the occasional topical video. I've just found that trying to catch up on weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and days of games is very difficult when you get stuck behind. So what I've chosen to do is now go for weekly videos, an update. So still do my NBA Player of the Week videos, finally get my NBA Player of the Months out, and also some other videos, topical videos that I want to do and certainly help as well with the coverage of the NBA. So without further ado, we shall get into it. I'll go through my Player of the Week here for the 21st to the 27th of November. The last Player of the Week I did was Kyrie Irving for the 14th to the 20th of November. But my Player of the Week for the 21st to the 27th of November was James Harden, which is a shock for a lot of people. James Harden of the Houston Rockets led the team on a 3-0 run that week. 31.7 points per game, 6.7 assists per game. 6.7 rebounds per game. 9 assists per game, 1.7 steals and 0.7 blocks. Shot 49.2% from the field and 42.4% from deep, and a respectable 82.6% from the line. Reasonable all-round numbers there. I mean, typically the defense is lacking with Harden. 1.7 steals, very deceptive for a guy who doesn't play it. Shooting percentage is up at 42.9% on this effort. However, it needs to be noted that these aren't counting the times that he's baiting and getting to the line. And I mean, for a guy who's getting to the line almost a dozen times a game, 82.6%, probably want to be bumping that up, considering he could be a 90% free throw shooter. That's just me. It's certainly helping now coming into this part of the season that Chris Paul is certainly back into his stroke and getting back into the game. Obviously out, I believe, injured at the moment. Out on suspension after that altercation at Staples Center. However, I don't think that's going to be too big of a problem here for the Rockets. Still sitting second in the West and not looking like they're going to go much higher. The Dubs are playing pretty well, but I do genuinely see them as a top two team in the West. I don't see them getting out of the conference finals if they make it. Golden State look like they're going to romp in for another ring. So, but yeah, particularly on the 21st to 27th of November, Harden, as I said, 3-0 record. Just shy of 32 points per game, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, pretty well-rounded numbers. Chris Paul having a tremendous impact on this team, though, which is going to hurt Harden's MVP case for me, particularly in the rebounding and the passing department. And defensively, Chris Paul isn't the greatest defender anymore, but he's still able to anchor that team, which is pretty sad for a point guard. But yeah, my NBA Player of the Week for the 21st to the 27th of November 2017, it was James Harden leading the Rockets to a 3-0 record. Now, as we move on down to the week of the 28th of November through to the 4th of December 2017, I had LeBron James as my Player of the Week, leading the Cavs to a 4-0 record. Many people will know the Cavs really started to click and went on a fair run around this time, heading into the middle and late part of December, if that makes sense. So he led them right through the middle, and towards the end there, they certainly slumped off and really struggled to pick back up. But, I mean, LeBron was on fire here in a 4-0 record for the Cavs, 25.5 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, 9 assists per game, 2.3 steals per game, and a block per game. Tremendously well shot, 62.5%. We'll get into that, though. 37.5% from deep and 80% from the line, which for LeBron is a miracle if he shoots anything over 75%. I do want to touch on those rebounding, passing, and that shooting number. Obviously, 25.5 points for a guy in his 15th season. He's doing really, really well. But the problem is LeBron's like a bull in a china shop. He drops his shoulder and he continuously barges through opponents. There are no offensive calls on him. Everyone knows that. And he goes through, unaccounted for and whinges about no contact. Whinges about not getting calls. despite the fact he's continuously getting away with offensive fouls not being called for those either. So it balances out on either end. And 62.5%, yeah, that's pretty impressive, but it's also very selective. As I mentioned previously, LeBron's ability to shoot the ball does vary. He can go anywhere from 2 to 5 feet, and then he has to shoot from 24 feet because his mid-range game and ability to hit the jump shot inside the arc, if it's not a layup, is pathetic. And we've seen that in previous years and previous postseason tries where other teams have dared him to shoot the jumper, or where he's been forced to not penetrate into through a zone or a press, and even a trap to an extent, where he gets caught in the mid-range and he can't drive because there's too many people in the middle of the lane, and he certainly can't shoot the three ball because they forced him inside. So he does score. I mean, as we have talked about, his teammates have come out recently, he does look for that assist pass, which is a hell of a lot different than giving an assist. When you wait for a guy to curl off a screen and get open, and you stand there and you throw a basic chest pass, it's a really big difference. So, yeah, again, we do need to keep an eye on how inflated these numbers can be and how padded the numbers can be. But, I mean, again, 62.5%, it is good shooting, but I'd like to see maybe that drop down to maybe, God, I'd be pretty happy with a 54% shooting from LeBron and be scoring, 31, 32 points a game, because he's obviously quite capable of doing it. Free throw numbers up, which is good in this week, but again, when you're relying purely on 2 to 5 feet of the three ball, there are a lot of aspects to your game you need to improve on. Defensive numbers are deceptive, as we mentioned with the Cleveland Cavaliers throughout the year, their ability to unnecessarily rotate on D, and LeBron's ability to rotate onto a defensive assignment that is not really the main assignment can be quite substantial. I mean, I made quite a point of it during the year when Tim Hardaway Jr. and the Knicks beat the Cavs, I believe it was at Madison Square Garden. Hardaway went off for a 30-point night. LeBron struggled to score 20, and at one point was rotating on defense, not onto Tim Hardaway Jr., but to Kyle O'Quinn in the corner. Everyone uses this thing, he guards the 1 to 5. Well, yeah, but when the 4 or the 5 standing out and they're the last option on offense and they're certainly not going to be shooting a three ball, then, yeah, I reckon I could probably guard the 1 to 5 as well. But nonetheless, led the Cavs to a 4-0 record on the week of the 28th of November through to the 4th of December, 25.5 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 9 assists, 2.3 steals, and a block per game. Again, 62.5%, a little inflated, wouldn't care if that dropped even 10% and he started putting up over 30 points per game scoring. I'd be a hell of a lot happier with that. I mean, they're winning in situations like this, but again, it's when the other team clicks, when the teammates click too, when streaky shooters start getting streaky hot, it's good, but when streaky shooters can't get into a streak, then that's a real problem. 37.5% from deep. He's been like that the past 2 or 3 years from beyond the arc, so consistent there. And as I mentioned, 80% on the free throws. Quite impressive for a guy who, if he shoots over 75%, it's a miracle. Now, to get into my player of the month of November, as we've just rounded into December, my player of the month for November was, again, a shock to a lot of people, James Harden. He was carrying that Houston offense on at least one end of the floor. He certainly wasn't on the other end. But, I mean, he was the leader of the team that went 12-1 on the month, 34.9 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 10.1 assists per game, 1.6 steals, and half a block a game. Again, don't weigh too much into the defense, but, I mean, a tremendous offensive output for a guy. You lead in 13 games, you win 12 of them, you put up 35 points, and you drop 10 assists at the same time. You're clearly trying to carry the weight offensively. 46.8% would have preferred to see maybe a 48% clip there, 49% clip from the field, particularly for a guy dropping that amount of points. You've got to be putting up shots, but you've got to be consistent with it too. So there is always a patch there where you've got to balance. 43.2%, I mean, if you shoot over in the NBA, if you're beyond 37% shooting from three, you're a good three-point shooter. Over 40%, he's a very good three-point shooter at the moment. I mean, guys like Curry are putting up 45, 46% from deep, so they're all-time, and extremely elite in the three-point shooting category. But, I mean, 43.2%, I'm not going to scoff at that as a Rockets fan. And 89.1% from the stripe. Again, he should be above 90. I think that needs to be par for James Harden with the amount of attempts he gets during a game, during a season. I don't think it's acceptable anything under that. But again, I think the one thing we need to remind here is that even though he's leading this Houston team offensively, it's the defense that's going to matter. You can have a team that pours in 120 points a game, but if you don't stop 125, if you don't hold a team below your own scoring ability, obviously you're not going to win. And that's something that Houston really are going to struggle with. I can see them easily pouring in 150, 120 points a night. It's not hard with the way the game's played today. However, I do feel they lack defensively, and trying to hold teams like Golden State to under 115, 120 points in the playoffs, let alone the regular season, is really going to cost them a chance at making the NBA Finals. Hell, if they're not lucky, if they're not careful, they could very well slip, and it could cost them in the second round, let alone the conference and NBA Finals. But again, 13 games, 12-1, really not much to complain about there as far as a Houston fan's concerned. Again, defense is really worrying at times, but again, player of the month for November, James Harden, 34.9 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 10.1 assists per game, 1.6 steals per game, half a block per game. 46.8% from the field would have really, as I mentioned, preferred. Need to be shooting around that 48, 49% clip. 43.2% from deep. That's very, very good. Almost elite as far as the NBA is concerned. And 89.1% from the stripe. Probably can do a little bit better there. As I mentioned, I want to see him at 90%. But overall, a very, very offensively, a good month offensively as far as production is concerned for James Harden. And that's why he earned my player of the month. Now, as we're already into December here, the week of the 5th to the 11th of December 2017 saw Kevin Durant as my NBA player of the week, leading the Warriors to a 3-0 record. I do believe Curry was out at this point and was struggling for a bit of form and through injury and whatnot. But, I mean, he averaged 33 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 7.3 assists per game. 0.3 steals, looking to probably want to do a little bit more, but at the same time made up with it for shot blocking at 3.3 a game. 50% from the field, 40% from deep, and 95% from the free throw line. An absolutely well-rounded week for Kevin Durant here. Again, the Dubs shouldn't really struggle when they lose Durant or Curry. They are that good of a team. I mean, people need to remember the same team that went 73-9 didn't have Durant, and the same team that won that championship in 14-15 didn't have Durant. So, I mean, they were a hell of a lot better defensively, in my opinion, as far as on a rounded team spectrum. But for someone like Durant to be able to step up, although, again, it's not a great move, moving to another team that, was 73-9 and kicked your ass in the Western Conference Finals, to be able to come in and still, be able to take that pressure off the team and still know that, we might have Curry and Durant, but even if we lose one, we're still going to win games. 3-0, as I mentioned, on the week, 33 points per game, 10 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 0.3 steals, and 3.3 blocks. That's a very well all-round game there for Durant. Not an elite defender, but a very good, borderline great defender in this league at the moment. I mean, 7 foot, you've got a wingspan, that just goes for days. And the ability to shoot the ball as well, as I mentioned, 50, 40, 95 on the week. Tremendous effort. There's not much more I can say. Certainly at one point a leading candidate for the MVP in the league. However, he does have a lot of problems as we head further in, and I'll mention that soon. So, 5th of the 11th, again, Kevin Durant with 3-0 record for the Warriors. 33-10, 7.3, 0.3, and 3.3, and then 50, 40, 95 on the shooting. From the 12th to the 18th of December, I went back to the Eastern Conference, and LeBron James was my player of the week from the 12th to the 18th of December. LeBron led the Cavs on a 4-0 record, and it was around this time that the Cavs started to shake a little bit. So this was really the last extremely productive week and successful week that LeBron's had this season, and he's going to have to do a hell of a lot more to try and catch back up to it. And I believe this month period here where he's had a real downturn is going to cost him the chance of an MVP, because, again, another guy who really had a shot at it. 4-0 on the week for the Cavs and LeBron. I mean, guys like Kevin Love certainly showed some great production as well. I think the production as far as Love was concerned was 25, 26 points per game, 10 rebounds per game on this week as well. But again, LeBron, 24.8 points per game, 10.3 rebounds per game, 13.5 assists per game. So that's quite impressive there. I know he does look for the assists, but that's a really high number. Or 1.3 steals per game and 0.8 blocks per game. Almost career averages there defensively for LeBron. 52.2% from the field. I know he's obviously doing a little bit more and had to carry a little bit more there, close out. A little harder in the fourth quarter through this week. But at the same time, when you're going to be putting up shots, I think this is where he really does get exposed in having to being in his scoring ability being overrated to an extent. 52.2%, as I mentioned a few moments ago. I'd like to see LeBron consistently score that, and with his ability to just get to the cup and really get open to hit a three-point shot. Off ball, that is. On ball is tremendously horrible at trying to get open one-on-one for any sort of shot. But, I mean, if he's shooting 52.2%, I'm really expecting LeBron to be putting 32 points per game on the board. 24.8, to me, that's a little underwhelming. But at the same time, when you put up the triple-double, he does chase it. We all know that. He all pads his stats. It's one thing I mentioned in a video previously done where if he's getting these defensive rebounds, he should be getting the block numbers as well, but he's not. But at the same time, when you lead your team to a 4-0 record and you're doing a lot of the productivity, again, when you've got a lot of the ball, you should be having a lot of the productivity. Then, yeah, you deserve the credit that you should get. I mean, he went on an absolute tear there for about a month where he was LeBron. He was closing out the fourth quarter. He was putting the team on his back. Again, 24.8 points per game, a little low for someone who I thought if they can sacrifice their field goal percentage should be putting points up, but unfortunately not. Again, exposed in the jump shot category. Doesn't have a reliable jumper to fall back on. Obviously, he's lucky the team, playing well, they're able to get wins, which is making him look impressive. But, if you can't sacrifice 10% field goal, but then you have to sacrifice points as well, it's really concerning. So, again, you can see in the rebounding and the passing numbers, which are going to obviously make the field goal percentage dissipate because, he's getting the rebounds and the assists. You need to be able to sustain that level of excellence. If you're going to drop your field goal percentage, your points want to go up. I mean, you should be taking more shots and wanting to, score and lead the team. Obviously not the case. Again, if you count rebounds and assists as being vital to leading a team, quote unquote, then Mark Jackson and Dennis Rodman should be in your top 10 all time. 30% from deep, not shocked. Obviously having trouble getting open. And I mean, that was evident as well when he's forced to take contested jumpers. He's not the greatest. So again, 30% from deep, not shocked. And 77.8, typical LeBron free throw numbers. Anything over 75 is a miracle. So I mean, I guess he did okay. But for a guy who's meant to be one of the 5 greatest players of all time and this elite dominant player on all ends of the floor in all spectrums of the game, shooting less than 80% really isn't acceptable. But again, it's very hard to fault a guy who puts up those sort of numbers and continuously is able to dominate the game even in season 15. So again, my player of the week for the 12th to the 18th of December was LeBron James, leading the Cavs on 4-0 record, 24.8 points per game, 10.3 rebounds per game, 13.5 assists per game, 1.3 steals per game, 0.8 blocks per game, on a clip of 52.2% from the field, 30% from deep, and 77.8% from stripe. Now, as we move over to the Christmas week, the 19th to the 25th of December, we had, now let me just double check that, 1920. Yep, that's right. 19th to the 25th of December, my player of the week was Russell Westbrook. Now, OKC have had a lot of problems this year. They've gone on spurts where they've looked absolutely unstoppable. They had a 17-game stretch where I think they won 15 in a row. And they looked like a team that was a serious contender out in the West. Then, before that, they were so deflated. Now, since then, they've looked reasonably deflated as well. So they've got a lot of work to do. I think there's a lot of chemistry issues with guys like Carmelo Anthony looking to just get points and grab rebounds. Again, stat pad that rebound number. Melo used to be a consistent rebounder, but at the moment he's just looking for the pick and roll and the score or grab the rebound in the isolation. He needs to hurry up and concede to a 6-man position, if you ask me. Paul George still quite shown signs of being able to lead this team when Russ is down. However, I think he needs to focus more defensively than offensively, particularly with guys like Russ and Melo who are going to keep putting shots up and trying to score points. When you've got the ability to defend that they don't, then I think he should stick to that. However, anyway, we're worrying about the player of the week for the 19th to the 25th. So Russell Westbrook of the Oklahoma City Thunder, leading them to a record of 4-0, with 28 points per game, 8.3 rebounds per game, 10.8 assists per game, 2.5 steals, and 0.5 blocks per game. Shooting at a nice healthy clip, particularly for Russ, at 57.7%, 50% from deep, and 90.5% from the stripe. One of the most efficient scoring weeks Russ has had in a long time. Again, 28 points on 57% shooting. I'd like to see maybe try and score the ball a little more. And if it means denying Carmelo possessions, it means denying Carmelo possessions. You're obviously at the clip. You need to do a little bit more scoring. I mean, I could expect Russ to drop that down a few points and average 32. That's the kind of player and athletic ability he has. And when he's in that sort of form, he can do it. 8.3 rebounds, again, when you're a point guard and you've got guys like Carmelo, you've got guys like Paul George, and you've got guys like Steven Adams. I mean, Adams is an offensive rebounder more than an defensive rebounder, and I really don't understand that. But when you've got three guys in line that are ahead of you as far as primary rebounders in the team, at least, I think you should be really worrying about scoring the ball and distributing the ball and facilitating the offense. But again, that's where you've really got to take a look at, okay, so these guys are grabbing rebounds. What are their defensive numbers like? Well, Russell is known to play the passing lanes rather than be a good on-ball defender. This is where you need to take into account what their defensive numbers really look like. So 2.5 steals, it is good. It is a reasonably high number. However, you've got to look at how these steals are being made. Again, shot blocking for a guard is never tremendously a high priority anymore. I mean, the last three good shot blockers for guards really in the history of the league has been Michael, Vince Carter, and Dwayne Wade. I'm pretty sure they're the top three players as far as shot blocks are concerned for guards. I think Clyde Drexler's up there as well, but I know they're the top three. So again, always never a priority. But again, if you're the one that's going to be grabbing rebounds, you're the one that's got to be willing to, contest shots. You only had to see in the most recent Cavaliers Golden State game where Durant's coming down the lane and you just see LeBron step out of the way. Now, why don't you contest the shot? Sure, you get on the poster, but what's going to hurt your legacy more? Losing for a sixth time in the NBA Finals this year to that guy, or trying to contest the block? Guess what? It's probably losing 6 times in the finals. Not that there's much to lose in the rest of your legacy. You're a top 5 player of all time, but I mean, this is just where players need to be more hungrier. And I mean, it's not just LeBron that gets that exception. It's guys like Westbrook as well, guys who really hunt the rebound but don't have these defensive numbers. I mean, look at Melo. Melo's another example. He hunts the rebound, he hunts the score, he likes the pick and roll, but he's not a defender. Melo was averaging, I think, at one point 8 rebounds in New York, but he wasn't grabbing he couldn't block a shot to save his life. It's just something you really got to look at. But again, you're leading them in the West, a team in the West, to a 4-0 record on the week, 28 points per game, 8.3 rebounds per game, 10.8 assists, 2.5 steals. Again, even though playing the passing lanes, it is a decent number, and only half a block a game, which is something you need to really look at when you're trying to rebound the basketball. Let other people rebound the basketball. Not grabbing rebounds isn't going to hurt your legacy. As a guard, it's not going to hurt your legacy. Now, if you're a power forward and a center and you're averaging 5 rebounds a game, Jesus Christ, you want to make sure you're a 6'4" power forward who's averaging tremendous defensive numbers and winning Defensive Player of the Year awards. 57.7% from the field and 50% from deep. Ridiculous for Russell Westbrook. This is something he doesn't do. So to be able to be that efficient and that consistent like that, tremendous. So again, when he leads his team 4-0, he just needs to probably worry about putting points on the board, putting points on the board and playing defense than worrying about his rebounding numbers. Again, just a quick shout out to most of you guards out there and you triple-double chasers. If you're not a rebounder, don't think that not getting rebounds is going to hurt. Look at Kawhi Leonard, a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, a Finals MVP. He's going to be an all-time great, yet he doesn't worry about the rebounds. He worries about boxing out his opponent and playing on his opponent. Still able to pour in 25 points per game, still able to shoot the 3 ball, still got the ability to shoot 51% from the field, plays defense, plays offense, and does his role. No one's there, caring that he's not grabbing rebounds. He's got plenty of people to grab rebounds. Just use it as an example. Then, following Christmas, so again, my player of the week from the 19th to the 25th of December was Russell Westbrook of the OKC Thunder with a 4-0 record. Now, as I move in to the New Year's Day, the week preceding New Year's Day, from Boxing Day, so the 26th of the 12th, through to New Year's Day, the 1st of the 1st, player of the week was Jimmy Butler of the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have had a tremendous turnaround since letting Butler be the primary offensive player. Trying to run the ball through someone like a Karl Anthony Towns where one night he's getting 15 shots, then the next night he's getting 7, or when he gets the 15 shots, he's not making points, but in the 7 shots he makes, he does. It's just a system that's not going to work. You need someone consistent like Butler on both ends of the floor, mind you, who's able to put 12 shots up a game. He's able to make, 6 of them, 7 of them, and you're going to get a good offensive night out of him, and you're going to get a good defensive night out of him. So if you just let Karl Anthony Towns, grab the rebounds and the putbacks, Anthony Wiggins is always going to get his shot. He will turn into a Carmelo if he's certainly not careful, as far as just relying on his points. But, he's able to play well defensively. They're going to need Karl Anthony Towns to play a hell of a lot better defensively because he's just been dunked on, had nuts rubbed in his face constantly. Whether even grabbing rebounds, he's just not able to box out. He can be quite weak in a sense. But Butler led the Wolves from the 26th of the 12th to the first of the first on a 3-1 record. 28.3 points per game at 52.5% from the field and 38.5% from deep. 4.5 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists per game, and 2.3 steals per game. This is a guy who wasn't worried about the rebounds. He doesn't need to chase rebounds. He's not necessarily worried about the assists, but he knows as a guard, being able to distribute the ball and help set the offense up is key. But he doesn't need high assist numbers. He just needs to play his role. And that's something he does tremendously well. And he did on both teams. He had a very lackluster year in Chicago last year. However, I do feel there was a lot of pressure front office-wise, or their lack of, and a lack of care from the front office, which certainly restricted in the way he played. So 2.3 steals and 0.3 blocks. Again, he's not chasing those rebounds. I'm not expecting Jimmy Butler to be a shot blocker, particularly with his on-ball defense, his defensive pressure, and his ability to box out and create space for rebounders. That's something that is very key with Jimmy Butler's game. 38.5% from three. Run-of-the-mill, a good three-point shooter. Not a great three-point shooter, but a good and handy three-point shooter, and that's what the Timberwolves need, particularly since they're sitting top 4 in the West right now. They're doing the right things. And 93.6% from the stripe this week. This is a guy who consistently plays well. He's able to score from anywhere on the floor. He creates his own shot. He can get his own offense. He plays hard on defense. And when he gets to the line, he converts it. That's all you can ask from a player. Now, if Jimmy Butler put a hell of a lot more effort on defense, I think we could be looking at him in the same breath as a Kawhi Leonard. But unfortunately, he just has those moments of lapse. He doesn't always focus on it at both ends of the floor. However, with the role he's got to play in Minnesota, with the talent that's around him, he shouldn't always be relied upon to have to carry all ends of the floor. Guys like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins need to start stepping up. They're becoming more senior members of the NBA, particularly with their ability production-wise. So I don't see why a guy like Butler needs to be pouring in 30 points a game, still distributing the ball at a click of 6, still rebounding the ball at a click of 5, while also having that ability to defend like he does. But again, ever since Minnesota has allowed him to become the primary player on that side, they've become a hell of a lot better. Using him initially as a role player earlier in the year wasn't the smartest thing to do, but now that he's moved into that as that senior member of that side and as that guy who they can look up to and see, okay, he's doing this offensively, this is what we've got to do, and vice versa. When he sees them putting in effort, praising them and letting them know, okay, keep coming with me, I'm going to take this where we need to go. Again, defensively as well, guys like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins could probably take a leaf out of his book, any part of his book defensively, because they are nightmarish defensively and not in a good way. So, again, Butler with a side like that can be young and inconsistent, 3-1, coming out of the West, they're going to be sitting at, they can move as, honestly, I think they could give the second spot a real crack the way Butler can play on both ends of the floor. Ken Harden is tremendous offensively, but defensively he hasn't got anything on it. He's got to rely on guys like Chris Paul, and when his shot's not going, he's got to rely on Eric Gordon. But Jimmy Butler has that ability to lead guys like Anthony Towns and Wiggins through that someone like a James Harden doesn't have, and someone like a Chris Paul doesn't have, as you can see, with Paul never having made the conference finals, despite the fact he is arguably a top 50 player. So, and that does weigh a lot on people's minds. But again, Jimmy Butler for the week of the 26th of the 12th to the 1st of the 1st led the Minnesota Timberwolves in 3-1 record, 28.3 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists per game, 2.3 steals and 0.3 blocks, 52.5 from the field, 38.5 from deep, and 93.6% from the stripe. And as we move into there, my player for December 2017, my second Player of the Month award did go to Jimmy Butler. his ability to turn that franchise around over the month of December, become that key player and lead them was tremendous. On a record of 10-5 on the month, so a clip of 67%. Most people will know that in any sport you will win 2/3 of your games generally. So to come in and have a month like that was tremendous for him. As I look at his averages here, 26.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 5.3 assists. That is that's what an elite shooting guard all time can average. You can average 26, 5, and 5 for your career and still bring in nearly 2 steals a game. Tremendously good defensive effort. For the month here, as I mentioned, 26.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 1.9 steals. So another good, solid defensive effort. Again, people are going to be construed with, but look at the defensive numbers of Harden. Oh, he had 1.6 steals. It's the manner in which you gather the steals and the manner in which you play defense. Jimmy Butler's willing to sacrifice part of his game to be more effective defensively. There is no one in this league that I could name, or anyone that I know personally, that would rank James Harden as a better defender than Jimmy Butler. Sometimes you need the eye test. Numbers don't do it. Sometimes the eye test does, and between two players like that, it's definitely the eye test. As I mentioned, Butler's ability to box out his opponent and not necessarily want to grab the rebound, but just, defend them from getting a rebound. His ability to stick to a man defensively, his ability to play the passing lanes, his ability to, judge when to switch accurately is a lot higher than someone like a James Harden. As I mentioned, his defensive ability hopefully will slowly rub off on the likes of Anthony Towns and Wiggins, and they can build a solid team around Jimmy Butler. Excuse me. Shot 50.6% from the field, so clip over 50. Certainly something that team needed. And when you've got someone, again, I stress Towns and Wiggins because they have to step up as a young core of this side. 28.6% from three, certainly by no means not impressive. That's certainly not impressive at all. But when the three-pointer's not falling, the free throws are. Butler's ability to get to the line seems to be uncanny at 92.2% from the stripe. Again, something James Harden can look at. Okay, Butler sacrifices points to play defense. His field goal's more efficient. Okay, so when his shot isn't falling, he gets to the line. Harden does that as well. He more or less tries to bait himself to the line, but still. But he's a better free throw shooter. How can a guy who's not scoring as much, who's not getting as many offensive touches as he could do, getting to the line and being more accurate? Quality over quantity. That's how it happens. As I mentioned before, I keep harping on about Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. It's because those two are the young guys and the young core of that side that need to start stepping up. Because if the team's going to go the extra step, they're the guys that have to take the extra step to get there. Butler can go so far. I mean, he's clearly proven he can take the extra step and wants to lead a team. But you've got to be able to bring everyone else with you around you. And if these guys don't want to go with him on the journey, then the car's not going to move out of the garage. So again, my player of the month for December, Jimmy Butler, with a great turnaround and new leadership spot with the Wolves. 10-5 record, 26.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 5.3 assists per game, 1.9 steals per game, 0.4 blocks per game, 50.6 from the field, efficient shooting. Bit to be desired at 28.6% from three, however, certainly making up for it at the line at 92.2%. Now, for the first full week of January, the 2nd to the 8th of January, 2018, Steph Curry was my player of the week. And I will get to it after this as to why I think this certainly hurts Kevin Durant's ability for the MVP. With Durant out, Curry led the team to a 4-0 record at 34.5 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game, and 1.8 steals, no blocks involved in the total. And now for someone like a Kevin Durant who's able to post that 33, 10, and 7, that looks very good on paper. And it is. It's tremendously good, particularly when you throw in the blocks. He has quite a great all-around game for a 7-footer who plays the three. But to say you're the most valuable player on the team, that you have a case to being the best player in the league and in the world, to then go out and have another guy carry the team, that same team, to a 4-0 record whilst putting up 35 points a game, 6 and 6, with some okay steal numbers. He's not a great defender, Curry, but with an okay steals number, it certainly brings into question whether you are A, the leader of the team, and B, even in consideration for the best player in the league. And I feel that certainly hurts someone like Durant with an effort like that from Curry. 53.2% from the field, 46.9% from deep, while shooting 35 a game. It's the field goal percentage at 35 a game is what Michael put up at 35 a game. But he did it for a season, not just a week. 46.9%, we've come to expect that from Curry. He's pretty much, in my opinion, he's the greatest shooter we've seen. And it's one of those things you know when you see it. To me, he's the greatest shooter the game has ever seen. Now, do I feel that he certainly is helped by the rules? Absolutely. I think a lot of players today are helped by the rules. But it's very hard to disparage a guy who's putting up averages and percentages, the likes of which we've never seen. That's just how it is. So again, 34.5 points per game, 6 rebounds, 6.3 assists, and 1.8 steals on 53.2% from the field and 46.9% from deep. Ludicrous. He does have the ability to shoot 90% from the foul line, and on this week he had 89.2%. However, as a jump shooter, it's very rare you're going to get those kind of calls. If he was doing what James Harden did and just going to the line and throwing himself about and hitting all these free throws and hitting all these threes and being able to hit a jump shot from anywhere inside of 40 feet, then, yeah, I don't think we'd even be talking about the way James Harden's playing. In fact, I really feel that we'd be talking about how Curry's the next MVP again of the league. But I don't see it. I just don't. It's very hard to sort of compare when he doesn't get those free throw numbers. So, yeah, again, Curry from the 2nd to the 8th of January led the Warriors on a 4-0 record. And again, this is why I think it hurts Kevin Durant, because there's a player that's able to come in and do what he does scoring-wise and lead the team to just as good a record when they've got other players like a Draymond Green who can grab rebounds, guys like Klay Thompson who can play that nuggety defense, and they have guys who can distribute the ball. That's just how it works. So again, 2nd to the 8th of January, Steph Curry, Golden State Warriors, 4-0 record, 34.5 points per game, 6 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 1.8 steals, 53.2% from the field, 46.9% from deep, and 89.2% from the stripe. A tremendously good week there for Steph Curry. Now, as we go to the week just gone, the 9th to the 15th of January, I have Kevin Durant as my player of the week. KD led the Warriors, or was the best player on that Warriors team for that week, and led them to a 3-1 record. 30.8 points per game, 5.3 assists, 5.3 rebounds, and 5.8 assists, 1.5 steals, and 0.8 blocks. Now, you compare that to Curry's week previous. It's a 3-1 record to 4-0. So Curry led them to more wins. Okay, so that hurts Durant. 34.5 to 30.8. Curry scored more points, but if you want to compare field goals, Durant did it by sacrificing, to me, padding his numbers a little bit at 62.5%. Curry will just let fly and he'll keep shooting at 53.2%. Probably going to say Curry there. Most definitely. Now, in the rebounding department, do I think Curry has to rebound? Not with who's on that team. However, Durant's 7 foot. 7-footers should be able to grab rebounds. Curry, 6 rebounds per game. Durant, 5.3 rebounds per game. Now, as we go back through to the assists, again, Curry being the point guard is expected to have higher assists, 6.3. So 5.8 from Durant's fairly respectable from a guy who is the first scoring option and really, as far as facilitators, 3rd or 4th on that list. So a reasonably good week from Durant there. 1.5 steals, again, for a guy who was looking as almost defensive player of the year-esque earlier in the year. 1.5 steals and 0.8 blocks is awfully hard to judge. However, when you know he's a better defender than Steph Curry, who had 1.8 steals but no blocks, again, at 7 foot, you want to be getting, you want to be blocking shots. Unfortunately for Durant, it was a little weak last week. However, I do feel a better defensive effort there. And again, when I come to the shooting percentages, 62.5% from the field for Durant, 60% from deep for Durant, 81% from the stripe for Durant. You look at Steph Curry, 53.2% from the field, 46.9% from deep, and 89.2% from the stripe. It's very hard. You have to suggest that, a lack of numbers scoring-wise for Durant certainly hurts his percentile argument, for the simple fact that it's known players will then pad their stats so they look more impressive. mean, we all know how active Kevin Durant is. You've got to have a fair idea. He knew what Curry did while he was away. And I mean, in 8 games, they go 7-1. Curry leads them to 4-0, like 4-0 as a leader of the team. It's quite interesting. I do feel though that this cancels both of their cases for MVP out, but I think it hurts KD more. Curry's been out for more games. It's fair enough. I think it's a differential of 7 or 8 games around there. But when you're not able, as a guy who's played more games, to then come out and say, no, this is my squad now, it certainly hurts your case. And Curry being a former 2-time MVP, there is no reason why he possibly can't win a third. I think the reason that he can't win a third this year anyway is because Durant will come out and constantly do this. It's very hard to decipher who the more valuable player is when you've got guys coming out putting up close to identical numbers with tremendously high shooting ability. Defensively, I'd have to give it to Durant. So if I was going to give an edge, I could possibly give it to Durant. But then the fact that he comes in, I mean, they lose one less games, but when they don't have the same record and you've got a guy who's able to put that kind of production up after being out 2 to 3 weeks injured, no worries, it hurts your case. It really hurts your case. So, again, here's a poll I'm going to run. Who's more likely to win an MVP? I'll put this up on my Twitter. Who's more likely to win an MVP this season, Steph Curry or Kevin Durant? The Warriors are certainly going to win the first seed, and they certainly look like they're going to win the championship. But who out of them, if one of them was to win the MVP, would be the MVP? That's up to you. But again, just wrapping up, my player of the week for the 9th to the 15th of January 2018 was Kevin Durant, leading the Warriors to a 3-1 record, 30.8 points per game, 5.3 rebounds per game, 5.8 assists per game, 1.5 steals, 0.8 blocks per game, 62.5% shooting. Again, a shout out to LeBron James. He's going to put that kind of field goal percentage up. He needs to put those kind of points on the board. I mean, Durant could probably shoot. Imagine Durant sacrifices points. He probably averages field goal percentage. He probably averages 35 a game. And then we're not even talking about what LeBron could do because he can't. So 62.5% from field, 60% from deep, and 81.8% from the stripe. I'm happy at 80% for Durant, but he is a former 50-40-90 club member. He can shoot that 90%. Again, it depends how he plays. If he chooses to slash to the hoop, he gets the calls. He starts shooting jumpers, he don't get them. It's the same all around the league. So again, just wrapping up here, my players of the week that I've gone through. From the 21st to the 27th of November, I had James Harden. From the 28th of November to the 4th of December, I had LeBron James. From the 5th to the 11th of December, I had Kevin Durant. From the 12th to the 18th of December, I had LeBron James. From the 19th to the 25th of December, I had Russell Westbrook. From Boxing Day, so December 26th to January 1st, I had Jimmy Butler. From the 2nd to the 8th of January, I had Steph Curry. And from the 9th to the 15th of January, I had Kevin Durant. My players of the month so far, November, I had James Harden. In December, I had Jimmy Butler. So again, I'm going to run that poll. Who do you think is going to be an MVP if the only candidates are Steph Curry and Kevin Durant? It's very hard, but it's awfully hard to vote for me for Kevin Durant when someone like a Curry can come in and do the same. Defensively, lacks a little. You can certainly argue that the defensive effort for Durant will get him over the line. But when the team doesn't get the same results, it's very hard to argue a guy who provides less results. That's my opinion. Anyway, guys, this has been well overdue. And again, just a quick reminder, I will be sticking to the format of Players of the Week and topical videos from here on in. And my Players of the Month, obviously. So again, any topics you want to check out, let me know. Appreciating some of the feedback I've received on my Michael Jordan video. Got the jersey on at the moment. So you'll see an ever-rotating line of the jerseys through here, slowly but surely. And yeah, hopefully to build on them during the year as well, which will be good. So again, thank you very much for watching the video. Hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment. Let me know who you thought your players of the week were, who your players of the month were, who's looking like an MVP. And again, some of the topics you guys want me to cover. I've got a few in my head that I'm going to go with here or there. Probably more of a midweek thing, just so I can sort of keep flow up and keep traffic going and, keep my, what's the best way to do it? To keep content going and keep it updated. So, yeah. Thank you very much for watching again. Hit like. leave a comment, subscribe to the channel for updates. You'll be getting a video every 2 to 3 days, which should be pretty awesome. And all NBA based, which is great to see. As we get closer to the All-Star break, I'll let you know who I thought my All-Stars were. In fact, I'll probably do that the day after the last regular season game before the All-Star break. And then I can also give you an update on who I feel my MVP will be. So again, thank you very much for watching the video. Hit me up on Twitter, Justin_G_O'Brien for more videos. For more conversation, NBA and other topics related as well. Again, thank you very much for watching, guys. This has been Justin, and I'll catch you with another topical video in the next couple of days. Cheers.